Hi everyone, it's me Megan and I'm going to be discussing panic disorder today. So let's begin with some background information. Panic disorder affects about 2 to 3 million American adults, and like a lot of the anxiety disorders we were talking about, it is more commonly diagnosed in females with a 2 to 1 female to male ratio. Panic disorder usually has a childhood or teenage onset. People have their first panic attacks as a child or teenager, and that later goes on to develop into full-blown panic disorder into their 20s and so on. One interesting statistic I found was that 6.8% of adults meet the criteria for panic disorder at some point in their life, and somewhere from 35 to 50% of adults will experience a panic attack in their lifetime. I think this is probably more toward the higher end because you can have plenty of panic attacks but not necessarily be diagnosed with panic disorder, which I will discuss on the next slide. According to the DSM-5 criteria, to be diagnosed with panic disorder, you must have recurrent unexpected panic attacks. Panic attacks can include the symptoms seen in this image, such as racing heart, nausea, shaking. A lot of people say that they feel like they're choking when they experience a panic attack. However, it is important to remember you cannot diagnose a single panic attack. It is only panic disorder if the person has persistent concern or worry about future panic attacks, or if they avoid situations that may cause a panic attack. One example of this is traveling or going away from home. Often people panic when they're going to a new place, so those with panic disorder would stay at home all the time because they're afraid of another panic attack happening. When diagnosing panic disorder, it's important to remember that panic attacks cannot be due to other health conditions or substances the person is taking. Physical conditions such as diabetes and heart attacks can look like panic, and often drugs of abuse send people into panic attacks. As with other disorders, you want to make sure the person is being treated for underlying conditions first. A lot of the research I found dealt with different theories of what causes panic disorder. The first set of theories are these biological theories that are concerned with the levels of neurotransmitters in the brain. As mentioned with other anxiety disorders, low levels of serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine could be causing panic disorder. We know these neurotransmitters are at fault because of the treatments that help people with panic disorder. SSRIs are often the first line of treatment. They increase serotonin levels, which shows serotonin may be playing a part. SNRIs act on both serotonin and norepinephrine, so it could be a combination of these neurotransmitters that contribute to panic. Tricyclic antidepressants affect serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. MAOIs, which are the monoamine oxidase inhibitors we talked about before, inhibit the enzymes that break down norepinephrine and serotonin. Another biological theory is that panic disorder is due to low levels of GABA, which we all know is the major inhibitory neurotransmitter that naturally calms and relaxes us. One thing we know is that benzodiazepines are very effective in treating panic disorder. Benzodiazepines activate GABA receptors to enhance GABA's ability to inhibit, which then calms us down. I found a study that looked at PET images in people with panic disorder and people who are completely unaffected. The study showed lower levels of GABA in panic patients, seen here, than non-affected controls. The orange-red color shows GABA receptor binding. The control had plenty of GABA activity, seen here around the edges, while the person with panic disorder clearly does not have this GABA activity. So GABA is not doing its job as an inhibitory neurotransmitter in people who suffer from panic disorder. Next, I found some metabolic theories of panic disorder. The metabolic theories focused on how the human body processes particular substances and how that could cause panic. It has been found that people with panic disorder are more sensitive to certain substances than people who are unaffected. Some substances that can actually trigger a panic attack in people with panic disorder are things like lactic acid, which is naturally produced by the body during muscular activity, caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, and elevated carbon dioxide levels. I read about some studies where breathing air with elevated carbon dioxide levels can actually trigger a panic attack in people who suffer from panic disorder, which could be related to the hyperventilating and respiratory problems that often accompany panic attacks. Next, I looked at the vulnerability and risk factors associated with panic disorder. I found that heritability estimates are at about 43%, which means if you have a parent with panic disorder, you are a lot more likely to be diagnosed. This points toward a genetic component to panic disorder. There are also chromosomal regions, specific genes, and alleles that have been found to put a person more at risk. Many of these genes are related to the GABA, serotonin, and norepinephrine systems, which backs up the idea that these neurotransmitters play a big role. Another risk factor is chronic stress. It is unclear whether stress is a cause or result of panic disorder, but chronic enduring stressors lead to a worse illness course and poorer treatment responses for people with panic disorder. I also read that chronic physiological stress puts a person more at risk. This would mean people who are living with chronic pain. I'm sure panic disorder is a combination of all of these factors for many people. So, I found a ton of information about the brain structures involved. These structures were broken up into the fear processing and the fear regulating structures. The fear processing structures are likely to be overactive in panic disorder. The amygdala is incredibly active in response to threatening stimuli. If people are exposed to something that normally triggers a panic attack for them, their amygdala is going to go crazy. MRI studies have shown that there is less gray matter in the amygdala of people with panic disorder than in healthy individuals. The interesting thing about that is that these effects seem to be greater in the right amygdala. The right hemisphere has been more associated with emotional processing than the left hemisphere. This is why a lot of these effects are right hemisphere specific. Another fear processing structure is the insula. According to fMRI studies, the insula was also overactive in response to threat in people with panic disorder. There were also abnormal gray matter reductions in the right insula. Another brain area is the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, often abbreviated ACC. This area is important for emotional regulation and emotional decision making. Damage to the right dorsal ACC has been linked to panic disorder. There was also decreased gray matter volume in the right ACC. As for the fear regulating structures, we have the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. White matter reductions of the frontal limbic gyrus, a part of the prefrontal cortex, have been seen in panic disorder individuals. This is indicative of a diminished frontal limbic regulation process. I previously mentioned lower GABA levels, and this is a big problem in the hippocampus of people with panic disorder. There is a decrease in the GABA binding in the hippocampus. This image here summarizes how the fear processing structures, such as the amygdala, are overactive in panic disorder, while the fear regulating structures are underactive in panic disorder, like the prefrontal cortex over here. And lastly, I just have a summary of all of the main points from what I have covered. So, just to recap, panic disorder is caused by low levels of norepinephrine, serotonin, and/or dopamine in the brain. There is a genetic vulnerability. It's often running in families. It's often heritable. And then the other key points are the overactivity of the fear processing structures, and the fear processing structures include the amygdala, insula, and dorsal ACC. And then we have the underactivity of the fear regulating structures, which include the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. And then common treatments that are also helpful for panic disorder include SSRIs, SNRIs, benzodiazepines, which are related to the neurotransmitters at fault. So that is all I have on panic disorder. I hope you enjoyed. Good luck in all your presentations, and have a great winter break, everybody.